Welcome back. We're continuing on this handout, Responses to Popular Skepticism. Last time we went over the first one. I promise not each one is going to be this long. Once we get going, you'll get the hang of it and see, okay, I can answer these questions. The second popular skeptical claim that we're going to address is like this. It doesn't matter which view you hold, they're all the same. Is that true? Are all views the same? Or is that an assumption maybe from Western secularism who looks at religion as all not true? Or maybe a view that says all is one and so it's all the same? Let's think about it. It says this may be true on a practical or psychological level, but even here only in the short run. The practical level is things we do, and psychological level is how we feel. But then it says maybe they're the same in terms of what we do and how we feel, but even here only in the short run. The next response, and it may sound mean to you, but it's not. If large-scale, long-term differences in human lives, like basic beliefs, are not important, then nothing is important, including anything you say. Okay, get over the shock of hearing that, and let me explain what that means. Let's go to the square of opposition again, and remember our two views. Are these the same? First, just by looking at the square, can we say that they're the same? Or must we say there are views that are contradictions? They're saying the exact opposite. So first, all is eternal and only some is eternal are not the same. They're exactly opposite. So the views that get represented are also going to be not the same. They're exactly opposite. But let's think about the concern of the person who's saying it doesn't matter, they're all the same. And I've heard this at Starbucks. I literally had a person come up to me. I was reading a book called God is Not One, and it was a world religions textbook meant to show that Americans don't understand world religions. We tend to think they're all the same, and they're not, and that's, I don't know, offensive to say to a religious person that, oh yeah, Christianity is just the same as secularism. It doesn't make any sense, but yeah, this guy asked me, what are you reading? And I told him, and he's like, oh, all the religions are the same. And I was like, no, read the book. So let's look at two religions and see, are they the same? I'm going to pick from theism, Judaism, and from spiritual monism, philosophical Hinduism. Now, from a practical perspective, what people are doing, people in Hinduism wear certain clothes, eat certain foods, worship on certain days to certain gods. And perhaps in Judaism, people wear certain clothes, eat certain foods, practice certain days, and are devoted to their God. Same thing, right? From a psychological perspective, Hindus are meeting some psychological need through worship and devotion to their God. Judaism also meeting a psychological need, worship, maybe community, maybe they find meaning in their communities. Same thing, right? At that level, perhaps. But would they marry each other? Would a consistent Hindu person marry a consistent Jewish person? No. Here's why. Hinduism says all is God. All is one and all is God. You are God. I am God. It's all God. Judaism says not all is God. God is God and people are people. We're not the same thing. Radically different views of ultimate reality. So going back to our handout, they're all the same. This may be true on a practical or psychological level, but even here, only in the short run. As soon as you start talking about basic beliefs, that similarity is gone. They're philosophically contradictory. And if large-scale, long-term differences in human lives like basic beliefs are not important, then nothing is important, including anything you say. Let me demonstrate that with a drawing for you. All right, so I'm going to erase this, keep it in your notes, and let's draw the house again. Remember, the house has a ground, a foundation, and a structure. And a person lives in the structure. So here's the person. What's down here? What? I can't hear you. Oh yeah, epistemology. How do I know? What's here? Metaphysics. And ethics, right? And this person is saying, what's a good color for saying here? This person's saying, it doesn't matter. They're all the same. Okay. So that's this person's interpretation. And they're saying that about other houses out there, right? They're saying all these are the same. Oh, guess what? Same. Oh, and they don't matter. Doesn't matter. So guess what? This one's doesn't matter either. It's self-referentially absurd to say that basic beliefs don't matter, because in the saying of it, you're saying mine doesn't matter either. But what I'm saying matters, and I'm saying it from within a world and life view, but I just said they don't matter. So if I say basic beliefs don't matter, then my basic beliefs also don't matter, and I've just undermined what I'm trying to communicate. So we can say, thank you for responding. Thank you for saying they're all the same, but it's not true. It may be true on a practical or psychological level, but not in the not in the long run. And if large-scale, long-term differences in human lives are not important, then nothing is important, including anything you say. So come, let's reason together. Okay? These are like roadblocks to conversation, and we're clearing the roadblock and inviting them back into conversation. Now, I should also tell you that sometimes people don't really want to talk. They throw these up to avoid the conversation. Maybe we should also give them a way out after we respond to them, though. They shouldn't get away with their skepticism, spreading their skepticism. It's like throwing litter out your car window. You're driving along, you throw the fast food garbage bag out the window. Who would do that, right? So when a person throws one of these out, it's like littering the public discourse. It's littering the conversation. We're not going to let them do that. Say, pick up your trash. All right? Can you do that? I know it takes a little boldness, but I'm confident that you can gain boldness in saying these things. All right, now let's go back to the handout. And from here on, it gets a little bit easier. Okay, we're getting our boldness, right? Skeptical claim 3. Who's to say which view is right? And who are you to say it, right? This is how it usually goes. Who's to say? I've heard this so many times in my life that I almost want to scream when I hear it. I probably even said it when I was a young person. Now let's see what the responses are. Remember, you're making your note cards and studying. Response 1. It's not who is to say, but what is to say. So there's a hidden assumption in this statement, and the hidden assumption is that authority is personal. And who are you? You're just a freshman, right? Authority isn't personal. We learned this already. Reason is transcendental. It's authoritative and self-attesting. It cannot be questioned, but it makes questioning possible. Remember that? Now we come back to the authority of reason. We're going to use reason to block the objection of skepticism. It's not who is to say, but what is to say. Response 2. Reason, the laws of thought, in all of us, it's universal too, it's natural, must be observed if we are to avoid talking nonsense. So you have reason, I have reason, come let's reason together. See how easy that is to say? And if you can't say it to the person, that's okay. Say it to yourself. When they say it, say, I have an objection to that. And hold on to it so that skepticism has no power over you. All right, who's to say? It's not who's to say, but what is to say. Reason must be observed if we are to avoid talking nonsense. Put that in your long-term memory. Practice it. Practice it on your friends first. and then it becomes part of you. Philosophy is a way of life, remember? Okay, it's all a matter of interpretation. Number 4. What is this? It sounds smart, right? And perhaps postmodern theory, critical theory would say it's all interpretation, all is interpretation. We can admit to that, but guess what? We're not going to stop there. It says that's true, but philosophy doesn't end here, it begins here. Remember, it's the job of philosophy to interpret. Remember the interpretive use of reason? We pull them right back in. Every interpretation must be tested for rational consistency. And some interpretations are better than others. Some interpretations are more rationally consistent, and we want to look for those. So come, let's reason together. See how nice that is? All right, put it on a note card, put it in your long-term memory, and practice it. Point 5. It's all relative. Doesn't that sound smart? No. It's all relative to what? What does that word relative mean? Relative is like a relationship. So everything is relative to everything? No, usually we're looking at some set of relationships. Now, we can, I wish I didn't erase that house, but we can go back to the house and say, yes, it is. Everything is relative to one's basic beliefs. So ethics is relative to your metaphysics. Politics is relative to your ethics. Metaphysics is relative to epistemology. So yes, everything is relative to one's own basic belief, and basic beliefs can be tested for meaning. Culture is relative to your basic belief. Everything is relative to your basic belief, and basic beliefs can be tested for meaning. So come, let's reason together. See how it works? Or let them go if they don't want to discuss. Okay, point 6, or number 6. I don't know what I believe. Okay, this usually isn't really a strong objection, but it is agnosticism. Do you know what agnosticism is? It's no belief. I don't know. So agnostic is no knowledge. So there are many people who are agnostic right now, and I'm going to say that's fine as long as you're in my class, but as you go through the class and you see the logical options before you, you should probably land somewhere. You have the tools of reason. I'm going to show you your logical options in metaphysics, give you arguments, pro and con for each one. Use your tools of reason to land somewhere and figure out what your basic belief is, because you do have one. How do I know? Because we do have basic beliefs. They're held more or less consciously. Maybe you're not conscious of your basic belief. Remember, my job is to raise consciousness, to help you figure it out for yourself. And we can know our basic beliefs by looking at our actions. We are always making choices. Every single day we make choices. Hundreds of choices, I'd say. Choices reflect our values. And our values reflect our view of the good. Our view of the good reflects our metaphysics, our view of the real. So you do have a view of what is real and what is good. You just have to look at your life. How are you living it? And it's going to be this way. I'm living it as if everything is eternal in some form or another, or as if only some things are eternal. God. Basically, there's a God or there's not a God. And how are you going to be living? So we can figure it out. We don't have to be stuck in agnosticism. Agnosticism is like personal skepticism. So skepticism is the view that says nobody could really know. It's a global claim. Nobody could know. Fideism accepts that nobody could really know, but you have to believe anyway. Agnosticism says, I don't know. It's more of a personal position. It doesn't put it on others. I think you should know those terms. What is skepticism? What is fideism? And what is agnosticism? Because all of them are encompassed in this discussion. Okay, the last one is kind of a non-claim, so it gets a non-answer. This is the I'll go with the flow, the simple, easy, what comes natural approach. This is the go with the flow position. Are you a go with the flower? Do you know a go with the flower? Those are the people that are like, I'm just going to go with life and see where it takes me, see what happens. Okay, pretend this is a little rowboat in a raging river, and you're without a paddle in this boat. It's going with the flow, right? And at the end of this river, there is a waterfall, and you're going to go down the waterfall because you have no way of going against the force that's taking you downstream. That's kind of life without a plan, without knowing your philosophy. Okay, so if you're going with the flow, you are not making choices that are thoughtful, wise, with a goal in mind. You're just letting life happen to you. And if you do that, you'll probably come into suffering. And suffering is there to get you to stop and think. And you'll have to rethink the go with the flow way of life. We'll call this the simple person. Remember the simple? They don't think they need to know. They don't think they need to know the good. You're just going to go with the flow. I think they probably have the good is fun and going with the flow is just fun. Okay, look at our response. Okay, go ahead. Perhaps we will meet again. You know why? Because they're not interested in talking right now. You can't say come let's reason together because they're not interested in that. And we might meet again after they undergo suffering and they come back to you and say, what was that thing about the good? And there's a goal of life and wisdom and the love of wisdom. Can we talk about that? Because I went with the flow and the flow brought destruction and I need to rebuild now with a plan. All right. So if you are considering the go with the flow mode of life, A, you probably won't do well in this class, and B, anticipate suffering. Okay. I am here to say you don't have to go with the flow. You can make a plan. You can have a goal. You can have the good. And the good is the goal of all goals. It helps you order your whole life and you could live wisely. And that's what I want for you. So what have we been talking about? We went through this handout, responses to popular skepticism. And I want you to know each of these 7 skeptical claims and our responses to those claims. So if you're making a note card, one side of the card, who's to say which view is right? The other side, it's not who's to say, but what is to say? Reason must be observed if we're to avoid talking nonsense. And you're going to put it into your long-term memory, and you're going to use it in real life to combat skepticism. That would be really great, right? We could make the world a better place by cleaning up discourse pollution and getting rid of skepticism. That sounds like a cause worth getting behind. Okay, next time we are going to talk about more serious versions of skepticism, philosophical skepticism. So this is person on the street skepticism. Next will be history of philosophy, what has come up, what are our alternatives to reason kind of skepticism. All right, thanks for joining me, and I will see you next time.